behind the scenes, Biden has grown angry and anxious about re-election efforts. So Biden is looking at the polls. The polls are not getting better. The polls in some cases are getting worse, especially on the economy. It's getting worse. His approval rating is not moving. And it's largely because of the people, his base, who's not supporting him. The young people under 35, people of color who are abandoning him, Arabs, and Muslims, progressives, is a large constituency that has abandoned him. And now that, they're leaking that, they're under some pressure here. Because all in corporate media, every time these polls come out, we got plenty of time. We're a year out. We're 9 months out. Now we're 10 months out. Now we're 9 months. Now 8 months out. You get what I'm saying? And now it's coming out that they're panicking. And let's bring up the full article. This is just a headline. So I think I have it up here. Yeah, I have it up on the last tab here. So let's go to this. What is this? NBC News article, and it's behind the scenes, Biden has grown angry and anxious about re-election efforts. And here's the subheadline: Biden locked up the Democratic nomination last week, but looking ahead to the general election, anxiety has seemed to increase. We're gonna listen to. Is this a commercial on here? Yeah, let's wait for this ad to be over. Because this is part of another part of it. Yeah, we can listen to this. This is short. So let's listen to this before I play, before I read the actual article part. Let's listen to this because this is kind of what it's based on. Oops, 1 second. I gotta turn the volume on here.
Is losing to former President Trump. Basically, our reporting says that Biden has grown angry and anxious.
Okay. I want to set this up the right way. All right. I think it's acting right now.
About his re-election efforts, Simone. Is that what you're hearing in your conversations with Democrats?
Doesn't let me go back. Okay. There it goes. All right, my apologies. All right, now we're queued up. Let's play it now.
We are getting this new reporting about the Biden campaign and about President Biden himself and how he is taking, especially all of these polls, which show him in some cases losing to former President Trump. Basically, our reporting says that Biden has grown angry and anxious about his re-election efforts. Simone, is that what you're hearing in your conversations with Democrats?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, if I were running for election against a person.
What's happening here?
Like Donald Trump, who has as many issues as he has and has committed as many alleged acts of criminality as he has, and you saw polls that said I was losing to him. Even I would be like, well, what is going on here in America? And so I have heard the frustration from Democrats, but also that they do believe there is time and opportunity to get their message out now that it is a one-on-one, Trump and Biden, make that contrast so that folks understand their choice come November.
He's got to drive the message, though. I mean, Biden's got to make the case every day against Trump, almost as though he's more of the challenger than the incumbent, right? He's got to sort of do that, prosecute the case against Trump.
How do you do that from the Oval Office? That's his challenge.
I think you have to have an army of surrogates out there helping you every day. And I think you also have to try to get out there and do it yourself more aggressively. But there's so many examples. Just take the TikTok case where Trump changes his mind on banning TikTok, clearly in part because of the influence of a billionaire with a stake in TikTok. If you're a Democrat, how do you not scream that from the rooftops? This is brazen corruption.
You know how you don't scream that from the rooftops? Because they're not Republicans. This guy's a Republican. So Republicans, which happens all the time on mainstream media, giving advice to Democrats. That's why you go, why is they giving them some freaking way off? Because that's because that's a Republican, and this guy is a conservative here, saying, why aren't you bringing up this thing that part of your constituency thinks you shouldn't be banning as a good thing? And he doesn't see why the Democrats doesn't do that. Because part of their constituency is young people, and why would they want to piss them off?
But where is that aggressiveness? I think it still remains to be seen if Biden can prosecute that case.
I think that there's two angles that they can take here. One is this democracy angle. I would submit to you, I don't think it's working. I don't think it's working.
It has. They would argue it has in the past. They would say it did in 2020 and 2022.
Well, abortion rights in 22 was more helpful.
That's a fair point.
And abortion is part of the democracy argument.
The biggest intervening factor between 2020 and 2024 has been inflation. And that has come into effect, and people really feel the impact of that. So unless the Biden team goes directly on the economy and talks about how a second term of President Biden would potentially be better economically than a second term of President Trump, I think that's the argument that they've got to go to. And I get it. It's a tough argument to make because most people are inclined to believe that Trump's better on it.
It was so dependent upon his opponent to win re-election. I mean,
yes, but this
Biden
is not a
needs
normal
Trump.
election.
Of course it's not.
This is not a normal time.
Right.
And so I think
Trump's comments yesterday. Yeah.
Well, yes, exactly. Right. Talking about the January 6th criminals as hostages, promising a bloodbath, demonizing immigrants, saying they are not human. So I just think this isn't a normal election.
That's the best bet for Biden,
the democracy plus what you're going to do for the voters is what is going to speak to them, I believe.
All right. Great conversation. You guys didn't need me here at all. Thank you.
It's your table. We're happy to be here.
Yeah, we didn't need you guys. Yeah, you're right. We didn't need you guys here at all. All right, so let's dive into some more of the article. But this is what it's based on. That was the article she was referring to. How do I close this? So let's read a little more, and might retread some of the stuff in the video. So bear with me. In a private meeting at the White House in January, allies of the president had just told him that his poll numbers in Michigan and Georgia had dropped over his handling of the war between Israel and Gaza. So they had told him his poll numbers had dropped in January. Let me make sure it looks big enough for everybody. Yeah, so I'll continue. Both are battleground states. Michigan and Georgia, that is. For some reason, they're calling Georgia a battleground state when there's no chance they're going to beat Georgia, win Georgia, in my opinion. Both Georgia and Michigan are battleground states. He narrowly won 4 years ago, and he can't afford any backsliding if he is to once again defeat Donald Trump. He began to shout and swear, a lawmaker familiar with the meeting said. So he's mad. You think he's going to go out and do something? Well, what do these people want? A ceasefire? Okay, they get it. No, that's not how it happened. Let's continue. He believed he had been doing what was right despite the political fallout. He told the group, according to the lawmaker. Asked about the episode, Andrew Bates, a White House spokesman, said, quote, President Biden makes national security decisions based on the country's national security needs alone, no other factor. That's them trying to blame them not changing course here on some sort of national security. Bogus. For months, Democrats have watched the 2024 campaign unfold with rising alarm as the sitting president struggles to gain ground against his defeated predecessor. Frustrations rippling through the party have reached the top, with Biden at times second-guessing traveling decisions and communication strategies that have left much of the electorate clueless about his record. Interviews with nearly 20 lawmakers, president, and past administrative officials and Biden allies show. Not looking good. The panic has set in, and they're finally letting it leak out that he's mad, which means this is now they're saying this is in January, and it's finally getting out here in mid-March. So back then when they were told, oh, we're not panicking, they were panicking, and they're still panicking, and the uncommitted vote put more panic in them. The starting gun for the general election campaign fired last week as Biden wrapped up the Democratic nomination. Yet he is still searching for ways to impress upon voters that he deserves a second term by dint of policy achievements that eluded past presidents. History suggests it will be tough for him to recover. Biden's 38% approval rating at this stage in the calendar is lower than that of the three presidents who went on to lose election. The three who went on to lose, his is lower. Trump, 48%. That's an outlier because I think Obama won with 45%. So that's an outlier. George W. Bush, 39%. Jimmy Carter, 43%, according to Gallup survey data. Biden has long believed that he isn't getting sufficient credit for an economy that has created 15 million new jobs, looking to reach distracted voters who may be tuning in. He told his speechwriter before the State of the Union address to tone down some of the lofty rhetoric and plainly lay out what he's done. A person familiar with the speech preparation said. Now, 15 million new jobs. It's funny how they take credit for 15 million. You take credit for jobs added after we lost millions of jobs. You forget, Joe Biden, during the pandemic that we lost millions of jobs. Millions of jobs. You forgot about that? So how many millions of this 15 million new is just regaining ground that we already lost, that you want us to give you credit for? I continue with the article. During the internal discussion, he'll press aides about which part of his record to highlight in different states, said a second person who was familiar with the matter. Surrounded by protective aides who want to minimize the chances of a flub, the 81-year-old president has chafed at restraints that he sees a counter to his natural instinct as a retail politician. A third person familiar with internal discussions said. Now they're just saying from these sources. You don't know. You never know with these sources. He has felt cocoon at times and has been eager to get out more, meet voters face to face, and take the fight directly to Trump, said the third person and fourth, also familiar with the matter, who like others spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss campaign strategy and the president's private views. Now, what happened was you have people call them, come out here. You're not going to quote me on record, but here's the story. Make sure you put it out. This is essentially how it works. There are signs that some within his party are also losing patience with him. Quote, Biden stood up in front of the whole world and said, I'm ready. I'm the guy who can take down Donald Trump, said Adam Smith, the Democrat of Washington. Quote, so he goddamn well better do it. We don't have time for him to be worried about whether or not people are saying things right or the poll numbers are where they should be. I want focused energy and not defensive anger. That's from Adam Smith, Democrat of Washington. Eminently beatable. Biden has on occasion directed his ire at his tight-knit senior staff. You mean he's flew off the handle, as he's been known to do? Given the successes he has had in the past, given the successes he has had in passing consequential bills and improving the economy, Biden was irritated that his message wasn't sinking in with the broader electorate, the sources said. The same thing we covered with the Bill Maher segment, that he's mad that people aren't saying the markers that you say makes a good economy. I'm going to go ahead and say it's a good economy, even if that's counter to what my personal experience is. He wants you to do that, and he's mad about that. 8 months before the election, Biden campaign team remains confident about his chances. A memo that campaign manager Julie Chavez Rodriguez sent out in December suggests that it was always the plan for Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris to start ramping up campaign travel earlier this year. Something that is now happening. Since the State of the Union speech, Biden has traveled to Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania. He'll be heading to Nevada and Arizona earlier this week. Quote, the president and his advisors have all been eager for him to get out, and they're more and planned for that to take place at the start of the election year, as has been the norm for past incumbents seeking re-election. They're trying to play it off like, oh, we're not doing this because we see the polls are terrible. We're just doing this because. I'll continue here. Biden AC Trump as an eminently beatable and deeply flawed opponent. In a recent campaign call with reporters, the campaign chairwoman, Jen O'Malley Dillon, said Trump appears to have little interest in attracting voters beyond his most faithful base. Quote, we know that he lost in 2020, she said. Quote, in order to win, he's got to expand his base of voters to find new people to be with him. And that it's not something he's shown that he's really focused on. Now, this is obviously a fluff piece. This is obviously a piece to make you believe he's mad and he's going through the emotions about his poll numbers. This illustrates how these news outlets aren't really news outlets. They're just mouthpieces for the establishment. And I guarantee this story, somebody in the White House just simply called the guy up, hey, a person up, and hey, I want you to run a story, come down, I'll give you the details. And voila, we see this story. Quote, a little mad at himself. At times, Biden gets suggestions that conflict with one another. Some advisors have told him he should walk faster out of concern that his gout feeds impressions that he's too old. And we've all seen him, how he walks. And now they're trying to make it seem like his walking is not because he's trying to stay balanced, because he is cognitively declining. You can visually see that. A person walking like this. You get what I'm saying? It's so, and these flimsy reasons they're trying to make up for him is just preposterous. But I'll start here. So one advisor told him he should walk faster because of the certain concerns that the way he walks with his gout would feed impressions that he's too old. And yet the White House is sufficiently worried about him tripping that he has taken to boarding Air Force One via a shorter staircase through the belly of the plane. Foregoing the iconic image of the president waving from the main doorway high above the tarmac. So he takes a shorter stairwell than the normal one because of this fear that they have. So, quote, he's probably a little mad at himself for not being more forceful with his staff, for making the suggestion of taking the shorter one. So they can see you fall down the stairs, sir? A person familiar with the internal discussion says. Privately, Biden questions whether he should trust his gut instincts over the guidance coming from the array of advisors tending to his political interests, this person added. So whether he should start going with his gut feeling instead of going with the advisors. So he's now trying to throw his advisors on the bus, saying, it's your fault. I went with what you said, and look where we're at. Now I'm going to go with what I said and see how that turns out, Joe Biden. See how that turns out. This is an unmitigated disaster waiting to happen. So I'll read a little bit more of this. This is really just a fluff piece about Biden, but I'm going to skip to this last section here. A failure to communicate. A consensus of Democratic officials is that Biden needs an army of surrogates to spread the word that his record has improved Americans' lives in concrete ways. He can't carry the message alone. Andre Dickens, the Democratic mayor of Atlanta, said that Trump's bluster tends to soak up the attention, but Biden's record is actually making streets safer. Do you mean like Cop City? This is the fucking douchebag Atlanta mayor that's cooning for Cop City. He cited spending bills that enabled his city to pay retention bonuses. Here we go. To police officers and underwrite youth programs that help to curb crime. You can't write this. Quote, coming after a blowhard like Trump, who tells you every day that he hates and tells you every day what he hates and what he likes, Biden is soft and calm and getting the work done, Dickens said. Letting voters know is, quote, the job of the mayor and county leaders who have benefited from the Biden administration policies. So the mayor of Atlanta is saying it's time to get out and start cooning for the president. That's what the mayor of Atlanta says. But this article lays out how they are in panic mode and that Biden is terrific propaganda on, I don't even know, on level red. Like this is a top level, send everybody. I'm seeing Nancy Pelosi in a bunch of interviews now because they are deathly afraid that their shit is not working. It's not moving the needle. Nothing's going to move the needle more quickly and more profoundly than switching policy on Gaza, switching policy on Israel, which they're not going to do. They're simply not going to do that. So they're just going to send surrogates out to lie and say, look, your lives have improved. Believe your own eyes and not what they're telling you. Let me just say that. That's my suggestion moving forward at the coming to an end of this article is believe yourself, believe what's happening to you. Don't go off what they're telling you. You should go off of. Believe what's happening to you. That's all, that's all I can say here.